Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bottom Line Live. Today, we're going to talk about your favorite subject. And I know your favorite subject is, of course, bookkeeping. So that's what we talk about every Thursday night. That's what everyone wants to come in and talk about on their Thursday evenings, because it is basically the most important and the best thing to talk about. So tonight, what I wanted to talk about is year-end tax deductions. We're basically at the end of the year, and it is time to talk about what you need to do to close out your year. What are your deductions that you should be looking for? What do you need to do? So now, of course, the first thing is, do you have your bookkeeping up to date? Because in order to know what deductions you need, what you should be spending money on, you need to have your numbers. You need to know if you have enough profit there that there's something to do with. Obviously, you're not going to be looking for what to spend money on if there's no profit. But if there is profit and you want to figure out what to spend that money on, that's something that now is what we're going to talk about. Also, when you go through your expenses, if you're doing your bookkeeping yourself, if you're not doing your bookkeeping yourself, what is tax deductible out of those things? Now, these are questions that I get asked a lot. I have done webinars on this before, so if you feel like you already know all the answers, that's totally fine. But I do get asked a lot, and I figured I would do another webinar and talk about tax deductions. I did another one where I literally went through a list of all possible deductions that you could take, which we're not going to do right now, but we're just going to talk about top ones and what you should be looking for the end of the year. So, all right. So let's say you did look through all of your accounting, all of your reports, and you know that you have profit and you're going to end up paying a ton of taxes on it if you don't spend it. And you need to actually spend it by the end of the year. This is maybe not everybody has this problem. I don't have this problem, but some companies do. So what should you be spending your money on? Like if you go buy big equipment, you don't get to necessarily take that entire tax deduction this year. So here's some things that you could spend your money on that would be a deduction. Top thing for the end of the year, and you're going to have all of your charities reaching out to you, especially if you're a big business owner, is making donations to charity. Now, of course, you're going to want to do this out of your personal income and not out of your business income. You get less deductible if you make a business donation, but it's really easy to transfer money, call it a draw to or a distribution to yourself personally and donate it. It's not 100% deductible this year, I don't believe, but we're back to normal rates. It's like 60% deductible. So as much as you possibly want to donate to your favorite charities, it has to be an American charity. It has to be certified 501c3 charity. But other than that, now is definitely the time to look at that. Now, how does that work? This is another question that I get asked a lot. So let's say someone goes, well, it looks like I'm going to owe $200,000 or $300,000 on taxes. Can I just donate the $200,000 or $300,000 and then I won't owe taxes? No, that's not how that works. Here's what it does. When you donate money or when you make other tax deductible purchases or transactions, it lowers your taxable income. So if you owe $200,000 or $300,000 in taxes, I'm going to assume that your profit was like $1 million, let's say. So if you now donate $200,000, your profit goes down by $200,000. Well, not your profit, but it's because it's deductible on your personal side. But basically, your taxable income goes down by $200,000, and you're paying taxes on $200,000 less income, which, depending on your tax bracket, could save you a lot of money. Should save you a lot of money. Are you still going to owe a lot of taxes if your taxable income is $800,000? Yeah, you're in the top bracket. If your taxable income is $800,000, you're still going to owe a lot of money. But how do these tax brackets even work? Okay, so I'm not going to go into the exact numbers, and if there's any CPAs that want to write them down, feel free. But basically, it goes into brackets. So let's say you're making anywhere from 0 to, I'm going to make up numbers just for example purposes. Don't quote me. These aren't the real numbers. Okay, but let's say you're making 0 to 25,000. That might be taxed at a certain percentage. For the sake of example, we're going to say 5%. So 0 to 25,000 is taxed at 5%. Then the next one, let's say from 25,000 to 50,000 is taxed at 10%. And the next one from 50,000 to 100,000 is taxed at 15%. So you're in a 15% tax bracket if you made that 100,000 in taxable revenue, but your first 25,000 only gets taxed at 5%. And then the rest of it between 50, whatever I said, 25,000 and 50,000 gets taxed at 10%. And the 50,000 to 100,000 gets taxed at the 15%. And that's how tax brackets work. So if you make, 500,000 in taxable income and you're in the highest tax brackets, you're only paying the highest tax brackets on the small amount of the income, not on the entire amount. It's in brackets. So I hope that helps explain that, because that is a question I get asked a lot. And I just gave example numbers just so that it makes sense. So back to, what are other things that you can do with your money at the end of the year that is going to save you money on taxes? If you qualify, if your business needs a vehicle and the vehicle qualifies because it weighs over a certain amount, you can get a deduction for a business vehicle, and you could buy that by the end of the year. It has to be heavy. It's called a Section 179 deduction. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'm not going to tell you the exact weight, but like generally it has to be like an SUV or a truck. And that's kind of the purpose of it, is the business vehicle that you are going to be using exclusively for business. And you can buy that type of vehicle and get that deduction by the end of the year. So certain vehicles that could save you a lot of money. There's limits, right? There's all kinds of rules and limits. Okay, what else? Let's say you need to pay for a new computer. So a computer, they're relatively cheap these days, right? They're usually, an asset is usually over $5,000. So if it's under $5,000, it can be just a business, office expenses. And computers, laptops are like what, 1,000, 1,500 these days. So I don't know, maybe you need a bunch of new computers for your employees, right? Obviously, this has to be within reason. It has to be for a purpose. You can't just buy yourself 5 laptops and call it a business deduction. That wouldn't fall in the purpose of ordinary, usual business expense. Here's another thing that you could do. A lot of people want to take a trip at the end of the year, but obviously it has to be a business trip. So there's certain conferences and conventions that you can go to that would be a business trip, and they can be out of town, and you get, as a business owner, you can do fun stuff while also doing a business trip. Like for instance, there's a QuickBooks conference that I'm going to go to in December. It's in Vegas. I love Vegas. I don't go to Vegas for fun anymore, especially because I am living in Tampa. So I'm not going to fly all the way to Vegas just to hang out, at a casino, but I'm doing a whole business trip. I'm taking 5 people of my employees. We're going to Vegas for the QuickBooks conference, and it's all a business write-off, the entire thing, because I'm paying for their flight, for most of their flights and all that stuff. Some business dinners, it's going to be a get together. We're all remote, so we're all over the country. We're going to all fly to Vegas and meet up, have a little business reunion. We try to do that once a year, and it's a business trip. Other people I know will go to a convention, a conference in Aruba, and it'll be basically an educational trip. There's, all of us usually have to do continuing education stuff for our industry. So you could go somewhere fun and do your continuing education and make it an educational business trip. And guys, I'm not talking about going to Disney World or going to Disneyland and saying that, oh, well, I'm going to do a business meeting while I'm there. That's not really the point. I'm talking about go do something that's an actual business purpose, an ordinary and usual business purpose, continuing education, a conference, anything like that. That's an actual business purpose, but make it somewhere cool, make it somewhere fun. I mean, honestly, I moved here to Florida because I get to live where people go on vacation. So this is just where I live now. Although realistically, I don't leave my apartment all that much because I work a lot, but Still, I go to the beach sometimes at night and it's beautiful and it's 15 minutes away. When I lived in LA, the beach was an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So there you go. Okay, let's see if we have any questions in my Zoom meeting or in the Facebook Live. It doesn't look like I have any questions. Okay, so other deductions that you should be looking for at the end of the year. First of all, are your books in order? I know I repeated that several times, but are your books in order so you can actually see where you're at? Because if you don't have your books in order, you're going to be missing usual ordinary business expenses that you actually already spent money on, like interest on business loans or business credit cards is all deductible. If you office expenses, office supplies, business meals, business travel, marketing, promotion, sponsorships. If you put an ad in your son's, football game or in his play because you're sponsoring the play, that's advertising for you. So there's so many things that you can do that sometimes maybe you paid for it personally that you didn't think about is actually a business expense. Also, one thing to keep track of is medical expenses. Medical expenses are deductible past a certain amount of income, yada, yada. Again, I'm not a CPA, so I'm not keeping track of the evolving numbers. Maybe one day I'll show up here with an actual document that says all these limits, numbers, and rules and read them to you. But in the meantime, I'm just going to give you a general idea of what are the things that you should be looking for and looking at. Now, because we're at the end of the year and it bears repeating, 1099s are due January 31st. So if you don't have W-9s from all of your vendors, now is the time to get them. Contractor payments are obviously tax deductible. It doesn't matter whether they're a U.S. contractor or a non-U.S. contractor, but if they are a U.S. contractor, they do need a 1099. And when I say contractor, I don't just mean someone that you think of as a contractor that works for you. Your marketing team, unless their employees are going to be contractors, it's anybody who's not an employee that's doing work for you. Your gardener that does your office gardening, not your home gardening, but your office gardening would be a contractor. They would need a 1099. Anything like that. So keep that in mind. Promotion, gifts to clients, gifts to employees. There are limits. There's things to keep track of, but those are all things that if you buy them now for the end of the year are going to count for this year as a business deduction. Okay, so hopefully I gave you a lot of ideas. I hope you're getting ready for the end of the year. I hope that you have all the W-9s that you need. If you don't have them yet, and guys, I really recommend that before you pay a vendor or a contractor, you get a W-9. So that way you have it, and at the end of the year, you don't have to stress about it. So 1099s, also get your books done. If they're not done yet, now is the time really to catch up your books for the year for 2022. I'm just going to assume everybody's 2021 is done because taxes are already due. If it's not done, please yell and scream so we can help you and help you avoid more taxes and penalties. But I'm assuming that they're done. So let's get your 2022 caught up so that your taxes are super easy at the end of the year. And also right now, you still have time to do tax planning. You have, maybe another month and a half where you can do stuff for 2022. You can look at your qualified retirement stuff. That's another tax deduction that if you don't have a retirement set up for your company, whatever, your 401k, your IRA, whatever, that is tax deductible. You got to set that up. You got to get that going. Insurance for your employees. If you need money to spend on, insurance is a great tax deduction. It's expensive and not that much fun, but you should do it if you have the money for it. Or if you're in a company, state, or anything where you legally have to do it, follow the legal advice and not my advice, because always be legal. Okay, payroll, anybody that you have on payroll taxes, all tax deductions. You also want to make sure that you as a business owner, you're on payroll, especially if you're an S corporation, and you want to make sure that you are paying yourself an average, or sorry, not average, a reasonable salary for your industry, for your income, all that. Oftentimes it's 40 to 60% of profit, not always. It depends on what your profit is. If your profit is $1 million, you definitely don't need to pay yourself 40 to 60% of it. A reasonable salary. If you're not sure what that is, you can always check with your CPA. If your profit is 100,000, then it would be reasonable to pay yourself 40 to 60,000 of it as salary. So that's where that rule comes in. If it starts getting much bigger than that, then it doesn't make sense anymore. So you have time right now. It's after tax season. Things are a little slower. The holidays are about to start where it's going to get crazy again. Now is the time to, take advantage of the calm before the storm and get all of your ducks in a row. Get all of your books ready so you're not stressed out at the end of the year, so you're not stressed out at the beginning of the year. Get your 1099s, get your books in order, get tax planning if you need it, and reach out if you need any help. I teach people how to use QuickBooks all the time. I teach people how to do bookkeeping for themselves. If it's a new company, a small company, and you're not really ready to hire someone yet, totally fine. And I do a lot of consulting. I know a lot about a lot of things of bookkeeping and taxes and business. So, I do a lot of consultations. Reach out if you need any help. Reach out if you need bookkeeping. We actually, I think I said this recently, we just hired a couple more bookkeepers. So we are ready for the new tax season. If you have a catch up that needs to be done, if 2022 needs to be done, or 2021, we are ready to do it right now. We can get started. So catch us before it gets crazy busy. Okay, so you can reach out to me. You can email me, maya@solvencynow.com. You can go to my website, solvencynow.com. You can check out my TikTok page at Solvency Now Bookkeeping. I just made some videos. I'm getting better at this TikToking. And speaking of which, if anybody's a TikTok expert, feel free to reach out because I'd love to pick your brain. Okay, we can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Solvency Now Bookkeeping, or my Yearend on Instagram or on Facebook. You can comment right here. You can send me a Facebook message. I always reply to all my messages. And I will see you again this time next week on the Bottom Line Live, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.